Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I have this early review for Blithe Spirit. And this is the latest adaptation of this Noel Coward play about a writer who's really in a rut. And he was a widower, gets married again, and he's in this relationship with his new wife, but has a seance, and all of a sudden him and his wife are being haunted by his first wife. And this has been adapted quite a few times at this point, and stars like Rex Harrison, Lauren Bacall have starred in some of the adaptations of this play. And in this particular one from Edward Hall, who's director for this, has a lot of experience with things like Downton Abbey and MI5, so a lot of television experience. He has the likes of Dan Stevens as our protagonist, our writer, his current wife played by Isla Fisher, and his deceased wife played by Leslie Mann, and just throwing some Dame Judi Dench in there too as this woman who performs a seance who is supposed to be a charlatan, but somehow this turns out and it works. And this film is definitely a comedy, leaning right into silliness. It does get a little dark because as the film goes on, some of the motivations become a little more nefarious than just like, I want to see my husband again. And you have these different kinds of situations. The big thing starting off with Edward Hall directing this film does have like a TV feel to it. It's very glossy, it's very brightly lit, and feels like you're making a television show. There isn't a whole lot of personality to how the film was directed or presented, so it's kind of just there. So you're not exactly getting anything special out of that aspect of the film. From performances, everyone's committed. Like, Dan Stevens is definitely committed. Leslie Mann, I feel like, is really enjoying herself in this role, and she has a very vintage look to her, and she really pulls off this time period's dress and hair, and she just owns it. She definitely has the most fun in the film. I was a little disappointed by the fact, Dan Stevens is a talented actor. I feel like a lot of what he's been doing lately is leaning into the same kind of thing and performances that might be overplaying it a bit, or you don't have a whole lot to dig into. I feel like there are a few interesting ideas that are presented in this film, especially when it comes to what's the actuality of this writing relationship between Dan Stevens' character and his first wife, Leslie Mann. And that adds layers to what he is as a writer, because maybe he's not everything that everybody thinks he is. And that's one of the more interesting elements of the film. I feel like this film rushes some very important development. And I think that's the biggest issue that I had with the film is, as you get to the third act, how you're supposed to be aligning shifts so drastically. And it does in such a quick and abrupt way that I feel like it wasn't as effective as it could have been. And it does work a little bit more than it should, only because Dan Stevens' character isn't the most likable. And there really isn't much about him to be admirable. So when it comes down to maybe you shouldn't be rooting for him anymore, if the story rushes that aspect from a plot standpoint, it kind of works because he just didn't come off as a sympathetic character to begin with. And you could definitely tell, Isla Fisher's doing her best with the role that she has. She's a lot of fun. There's one particular scene where she just goes there and just has this crazy interaction at a big party with a whole bunch of people, including her father, her husband, but you don't really feel very sympathetic for her. So really when it comes down to it is there's not a whole lot of sympathetic characters in this film. And a Judi Dench is in here with her own subplot, why she wants to do these seances, which I feel like, why'd that need to be added into this? Because really at the core of this film, it's the husband and his two wives. And it's silly, it's fun, I laughed quite a few times watching this film, and there's definitely a lot of chemistry between the cast if it weren't for the committed cast, this film wouldn't work anywhere near as close as it did. And when it really comes down to it, I feel like this 2020, now 2021 adaptation of Blithe Spirit is kind of just a bit shiny, a little artificial, and really just tries to ride on the strong and committed performances of its cast. And in the end, you might have some laughs, you might have some fun, but I don't think this is really going to be like a film that's going to make a huge difference or be a game changer, be extremely memorable. I think for the time being, the hour and 35 minutes you have, it's a fun time. But those are my thoughts on Blithe Spirit. Let me know what you think. Let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.